शुक्लाम्बरं विचारसार परमां माद्यां जगद्व्यापिनीं वीणा पुस्तकधारिणीम् अभन्द्यां जाड्यान्धकारापहाम् हस्ते स्फटिकमालिकं विद्दलन्ती पद्मासने संस्थितां वन्दे तां परमेश्वरीं भगवतीं बुद्धिप्रदां शारदाम्. We salute Mother Saraswati, who is so pure and white like that of jasmine, moon and a garland of pearls. She is the one who is adorned with sparkling white garments, whose hands are adorned with a veena and bone-giving staff, who is seated on a pure white lotus, who is always worshipped by Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the protector, Mahesh, the destroyer, and all the devas or gods. O Mother Saraswati, the Divine One, protect us and dispel all our ignorance. Ma Saraswati is one who is fair in complexion, who is the essence of Brahma, one who pervades the universe with Veena in one hand and the Vedas in the other, bestower of fearlessness and remover of ignorance, with a garland of rhinestones in her hand, seated on a lotus, the source of all intellect. To that Ma Saraswati we bow down.
Thank you, Anita. Now, we would like to request Professor Sanjay Mukherjee, the chairperson of the conference, to share and shed more light on the theme of the conference.
Coffee hoga na.
सर्वश्रुति शिरोरत्न विराजित पदाम्बुज वेदांताम्बुज सूर्याय तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. Namaskar and very warm welcome to all of you friends to the 9th Sustainability Conference or 9th SusCon at IIM Shillong. First time physically in our new campus at Saudi, and that's why it's a great event. As I look back 12 years, this is at 9th SusCon in 12 years. We had Shri Sundarlal Bahugunaji inaugurating the first SusCon, Dr. Abdul Kalam inaugurating the third SusCon, and we have come a long way. Friends, at a time when India is celebrating 75th year of its independence, at a time when the state of Meghalaya is also celebrating Golden Jubilee of its creation, it's our honor, our pleasure to welcome you to the campus of IIM Shillong. In the northeast of India, northeast, which I always say, is a very special space because it's a space for the Guru, the Ishan corner of the universe. Well, SusCon has been created not just to give an annual conference to the world. SusCon has been created as a movement, as a commitment to the cause, to the spirit of sustainability, covering all its dimensions. And it's so important today, friends, at a time. You see, in 1992, the first Rio summit was held in Rio de Janeiro. Thinkers, practitioners, academicians, policymakers from all over the world came, joined their effort, their intellectual power to save the earth. 2012, Rio Plus 20 summit again happened. But what did we find? In spite of all those efforts, most of the indicators of sustainability of the nature had declined in 20 years. So where did we go wrong? We have to find answers to this. And to find an answer, I look back to the 8th of May, 1941, the last birthday of our sage poet Rabindranath Tagore was being celebrated in Shantiniketan, where he offered his last testament to humanity, the crisis of civilization. At the end of that 3-page masterpiece, Tagore laments, I quote, I for once had believed that the springs of civilization will issue from the heart of Europe. But today when I'm about to leave the world, that faith has deserted me. I look around and see the crumbling ruins of a proud civilization, strewn like a vast heap of futility. And yet I shall not commit that grievous sin of losing faith in man. I shall wait for the new dawn, when the Holocaust will end and the air will be filled with the spirit of service and sacrifice. Perhaps that dawn will come from the east, where the sun rises. So we are in the eastern part of the country, the northeast part of the Bhushan corner of the country, looking for light. In this search, friends, it won't be advisable to rush for quick, easy answers. Most important would be to ask the right questions, the deeper questions, where we went wrong. In the name of progress, in the name of civilization, in the name of development, where did we go wrong so that nature is ravaged, plundered, day after day? Friends, the principle of sustainability has been also addressed in the East, in India. The very concept of dharma, which has its roots in the word three, means to hold and sustain. Dharma is a much maligned, much misunderstood word. It is not equal to religion. We cannot translate dharma as religion. It is that which holds and sustains everything in order. As the sun's dharma is to give the light, the dharma of the water is to flow, of the air is to blow. Similarly, the dharma of the human being is to grow and reach out to the others, expand ourselves beyond our body-mind frame to address the concerns of the others, human beings, nature, plants, animals. So unless we expand in our consciousness with all our energy, with all our work, with all our service, if we only create separations, you find out across the world today, however much we talk about sustainability, the result will be same as Rio plus 20. All the indicators will decline. So friends, we have to keep this in mind, asking questions, the right questions, the deeper questions, the uneasy questions sometimes. The East also have offered to us another important thing, which I found most importantly in the Gandhi-Tagore debate or dialogue. The two differ from each other considerably on major issues. But one thing that they had for each other, deep respect. Tagore gave Gandhi the title of Mahatma, and it's Gandhi who honored him with Gurudev. There's one thing we need to understand in all our endeavor, be it as an academic, be it in a corporate world, as a policymaker, let us differ with respect. And for that, it is very important to be, engage in a spirit of dialogue, not just debate. In a dialogue, we ask questions. Well, friends, I won't take much more of your time. I would like to conclude with a poem which Tagore dictated 10 days before his death, lying down in his deathbed, dictated to someone who wrote it down. The translation is something like this. The first day's sun, at the manifestation of the new being, asked a question, who are you? No answer came. Year after year went by. The last day's sun, the last question asks, on the western seashore, on a silent evening, who are you? No answer came. What is important is to keep the questions alive from day one to day end. That is what the poet had taught us. So let's keep the questions alive. Let's keep the lamp burning. And let's begin this journey in the new campus of IIM Shillong with Lord Buddha's famous dictum, Atmo Dipo Bhavo, be a light to yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your thoughts. Now I would like to call upon stage Professor Sanjeev Kakoti, sir, the chairperson of the conference, to share and shed more light on the context and the highlights of the conference. Sir, please.
Good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome to both IIM Shillong and to Shillong. It's certainly a lovely morning, and I take great pleasure in welcoming all of you. Normally, life is supposed to be a relay race where the next generation picks up the baton that the earlier generation leaves it off, and I pick up the baton of my friend Sanjay about the lights. We lit the lamp in the morning, and they say instead of cursing the darkness, it's always better to light a candle. And the other thing that comes to my mind as I was sitting is when you have a wall that's painted white and there's a small little speck of black there, normally people will look at that speck of black, not at the entire wall that is white. And I'm afraid sustainability has got to become that speck of black. And we hold up the mirror to the world and say that maybe it's not that we're running out of time. We have run out of time. And why am I saying this? The three key words for this conference, they are very, very essential for us. Compassion, co-creation, and collaboration. The best example of this compassion, collaboration, co-creation probably came from a small little photograph that was shared by my colleague Achinta late at night of the people decorating the flowers at 10 o'clock in the night, Kong Mary and her team. Yesterday happened to be the All Souls Day in Shillong. It's something that's really, really celebrated, where the Catholic people of the Catholic faith go to the graves of their near and dear ones and lay flowers and light it up. But in spite of that being such an important day, people were still around at 10 o'clock in the night. So thank you to the team that made this possible, and it was looking so beautiful. We have exceeded the planetary limits in a crazy, crazy way. The rate at which we are consuming the resources of the world actually requires another 2 planetoids for us to survive. But we have just one planet. So where do we go from here? We can't keep on going straight. If we know that there is a mistake that has been made by the last 200 years of within quote civilization, it is time for us to take a pause, rethink, and maybe take a redirection. And the world is following what is known as the exponential growth trajectory. What we do in institutions like ours is teach people how to increase profits, increase consumption, increase everything, and have that exponential curve going. It's madness. Somebody's got to stand up and be that little speck of black in the white wall, saying that that's not right. And believe me, everybody's going to look at that speck of black, not at the white wall. So consumption has got to be reined in. Our lifestyles got to change, and we have got to have compassion while doing it, and we have got to co-create and collaborate and co-create our future for not for us, but for the generations to come, our children, for our grandchildren who are yet to be born. Now, this concept of living together in this universe, I'm so happy that a person who seamlessly goes from meetings like this to the field, and from the field back to the drawing board to be in meetings with the policymakers, Dr. Vibhav Talukdar is with us today. One of those very few people who can actually do that. Go to the field, come back, and also give advice at the policy level. He's a marine biologist, but I will, with your permission, get into your domain a bit. And this is very interesting, and this is something which I did not know until about a couple of months ago when I was reading something. We're talking about coexisting in this world. And the one creature that has a very, very close resemblance to the human DNA is not a chimpanzee, sorry, it's the fruit fly. The DNA of the fruit fly has a lot of similarity with the DNA of a human being. And they were looking at the mating choices of the fruit fly. So did the fruit flies mate at random, or was there some amount of choice exercised by the fruit flies? So when they did this exercise, something very interesting came out. They found that fruit flies actually made their choice based on the microbes in their gut. So supposing a fruit fly is fed on, say, a sugar syrup, it would normally, in 99% of the cases, mate with the fly that is also fed on the same diet. So the choice of a mate is not determined by the fly itself, it is being determined by the gut microbes. So in order to enhance this study, what they did was they fed the fruit flies antibiotics which are known to kill the gut microbes. And once the microbes were dead, the fruit flies became agnostic. They had absolutely no choice. They exhibited in choosing a mate. So it didn't matter, once the antibiotic was fed, they would mate with any other fruit fly, irrespective of what diet they live on. So what I'm trying to say is that even our choices in life are really not determined. We think that human beings are the topmost creation of God. Sometimes I think topmost and bottommost are interchangeable, the way we are behaving. Now, the extinction of species in this world has accelerated. And in the last few years, shortcomings of technology, you know, people are joining online and they're not muted themselves. How to live with that? So the extinction of species has accelerated, and it is said that the species that is headlong in the race towards extinction, all of us, the human race is on a race to extinction unless we make a change. Who's going to make the change? Everybody is busy trying to make more money, trying to get a better life for themselves, trying to earn more, spend more, enjoy themselves more, and in the process, the house is burning, and we are not aware of it. So a conference like this is the forum where different people from different specializations come in. And this conference is particularly important. The 9th SusCon is particularly important for us, not only because it is the first online conference in the new country, another reason. The other reason is the number of researchers and participants who come in from all over the country and abroad. And secondly, we have in our midst two very special groups who are with us. One, people from various vocations and industry who are part of the general management program. They're here on campus, so thank you for joining us. You will take back the learning of this conference to your respective domains and hopefully make a difference. That's one. Different parts of the country, different domains, different specializations, different jobs. You're getting an opportunity to sit back and say that, hold on, there could be something more that we need to put into our thinking, into our lives. The second group that is here. I'm not even talking about the students and researchers of the institution who are here, because day in and day out, we try and talk sustainability. The other group is the group of defense service officers who are here for a program. They too are here, and they come from all the three forces. You might have somebody who was in a nuclear submarine is sitting here. Somebody who was a pilot is sitting here. Somebody in the army is sitting here. People who are going to retire soon and are going to go out and mix with the civil society and make a difference. And they are the people with the experience, with the discipline. If they decide that we are going to create a sustainable future for ourselves, I think there's very little force that can stop them from doing it. So thank you, the group, for being here. I hope you're going to carry that message forward, because this time around, because of the presence of the GMP and the defense forces here, I'm sure that the outreach of the sustainability conference is going to get so much wider and so much more impactful. This is in addition to the researchers, scholars, teachers, and what have you who are here. So I know that there are time constraints. So all I'm trying to say is that it is madness to think of exponential growth. Nothing can grow on and on and on except the cancer cell. Let's not mimic the cancer cell. Let's become human beings again. This world is beautiful. Let's keep it that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your words and setting up the right context for our conference. We would now take this opportunity to request our Honorable Director, sir,
Chief guest of the day, respected Dr. Mrityunjay Athreya, Padma Bhushan, a great management guru and advocate of Dharma in all walks of life. Our guest of honor, Dasho, President of the Center for Bhutan Studies and Cross-National Happiness Research, Bhutan. Our special guest, Dr. Talukudar, an Indian conservation biologist. Chairpersons of the conference, Professor Sanjoy Mukherjee and Professor Sanjeev Kakoti. All the keynote speakers, delegates presenting papers, my faculty colleagues, officers, staff, friends from media, and my dear students. On behalf of IIM Shillong fraternity and my personal behalf, it is both a privilege and a pleasure to welcome our chief guest, Dr. Mrityunjay Athreya, our guest of honor, Dasho, our special guest, Dr. Talukudar, all the keynote speakers and delegates. I also take this opportunity to welcome all my colleagues, friends from the media, dear students, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to all of you. I'm happy that this year we are in a position to host SusCon 9 for the first time at IIM Shillong Umsoli campus through hybrid mode. During the past 2 years, the world has experienced a major crisis due to the pandemic that hit the global economy significantly. People are worried about their lives and livelihoods. Many businesses are either closed or waiting for customers to return. It was indeed a time we all felt the need for collaboration, compassion, and co-creation that aptly suited the theme of SusCon 9. While we celebrate our 15 years, besides academic and research excellence, we could bring in many practices among ourselves and for the society that meets our core thrust area of sustainability. As an institution of national importance, we had been following openness to new ideas and experiences, intellectual freedom, self-experimentation, creative pursuit, adherence to fair, just, and ethical practices, and compassion for others that made IIM Shillong amongst the best of institutions. I am sure that during these 3 days of the conference, you will come up with fruitful discussions and make contribution to the great theme of this conference and make this conference a grand success. With this, once again, I welcome you all to the 9th International Sustainability Conference, SusCon 9. Please have a fruitful discussions and happy stay. Thank you.
of some institutional engagement and has tried to join on it. Thank you so much, sir, for joining on it. We have with us today Dr. Vibhav Kumar Rajpudar, sir, Indian conservation biologist and founder and CEO of IIM. Sir is an MSc in zoology with a specialization in animal ecology and wildlife biology and a PhD working in the field of wildlife research and conservation since 1989. He was one of the founders and is currently the CEO of IIM. He is also the chair of the Asian Rhino Specialist of the IUCN since 2008. He is also the Asia coordinator of the International Rhino Foundation since June 2008. He has served as a member of the Standing Committee of the National Board of Wildlife during 2008 and 10. He is also a member of the State Board of the Wildlife, Assam, and also an expert member of the Assam State Biodiversity Board. He has been involved in the wildlife crime monitoring in the northeastern states and also in the South and the Southeast Asia since 1989. He has published over 60 scientific papers in the journals of the national and the international reviews. Now I would like to call upon stage, sir, for a few words.
Very good morning. It's indeed a privilege for me to be here. I was a little nervous yesterday. Person from wildlife background being invited, to the Indian Institute of Management, Shillong. But this morning I was a little comfortable when I heard some word like planet Earth, sustainability. So I thought, okay, it's not that difficult as I initially thought. See, I started my career in 1989. We established a small organization called IIM. I'm a wildlife biologist. When we started, we basically used our pocket money to initiate, whatever awareness programs during those days. 2002, we tried to shape IIM as an institution. We recruited 4 employees in 2002. And today we have more than 130 employees working with us. So for a wildlife biologist, I had to learn management of managing 130 people with diverse background. So that reflects also, so although sometimes we may be concentrated on our, the areas of expertise. For me, it is a wildlife, biologist or something. But it encompasses, it is linked with so many spokes, that over the years, we need to keep our thinking and horizon wide open in order to, gain those knowledges and then, bind those knowledges in order to, give a shape to institutions, lead and bring the next phases of leaders. And that is one of the unique contributions of every institutions, including the IIM. Because you have the greatest advantage of getting new students every year. The number of students may be small, but it is a sustainable one. You are getting it every time, to build. So I think that is why whenever I am invited for academic institutions, especially for students, I always create time because I see opportunities. Okay. And now the environment, wildlife, biodiversity are so intricately linked that it is not the only responsibility of the geologists, botanists, forest officials, or environmentalists to take care of our planet Earth. It is the responsibility of every citizen to take care of planet Earth if we really want to live on this planet Earth, because there is no alternatives. We still have to live on this planet Earth. Institutions need to create leadership with different backgrounds. And we have a lot of issues. We have a lot of environmental problems. We need sustainable interventions. So for that, I think most of the time we talk on the problems rather than really to find what are the solutions, which are the feasible solutions. So finding solutions to problems, I see as an opportunity. When there is a problem, it may be a challenge, but that challenge brings equal opportunities. And that opportunities actually we really need to dig out and engage our next generation, the budding students and researchers to get engaged in. so that they can themselves create their own path. When we started Aranyak, we never realized that Aranyak will grow so big. My father was a professor in physics. He wanted me to be a physicist. And I thought, every morning, every day, every night, I cannot learn physics. So I took biology. So when I took biology, it put pressures on me that I have to learn myself. Okay, and that probably helped me something that I had to give extra in order to learn something. And it's a dynamic process. So, the responsibility, creation of responsibilities are very important. Now, as this institute is shifted to a new building, it's a privilege to be, working from a new building, but at the same time, it is also the responsibility, to sustain, to maintain the quality things of these institutions. So what I want to mean, the privileges, we always are very happy when we get privileges, but we forget sometimes that privileges also bestowed on us responsibilities. So that responsibilities, if we can carry forward, I think we can make our part, but a part of the future generation even much better. Now, role of any management, because see, management is everywhere. As I said in NGO, if you have 3 people, you have to manage. If you have 130 people, you have to manage. If it goes to 300, we have to manage. But what way are we going to manage? There are problems like the human-wildlife interactions leading to negative impact that we call human-wildlife conflict. Okay. Now, which one we will manage? Shall we manage wildlife or shall we manage humans? In most of these terms, if we see, we only need to manage one species, and that is us. That is the humans. So, for any problem if we see, we have to manage ourselves. And that is where I think the maximum focus has to be. Whether we like it, we don't like it, but the reality is that if we can really address the issues that humans sometimes knowingly, unknowingly creates, we need to really work on those issues. Because ultimately we have to manage humans. We cannot manage wild elephants too much. We cannot manage them. I think they are more disciplined with my experience. So that is what I think I also see opportunities. Because now all of us, we need to work with one species, the Homo sapiens. We need strategies for that, for diverse kind of thing. So that is I see a challenge, but also an opportunity. That if we can manage humans well, we can reduce some of the human-induced issues that creates global issues to a great extent. So managing humans are very important. When I was trained in wildlife management, I remember at least 2 instructors said, you need not manage wildlife, you need to manage humans. In forest department also, you need not manage wildlife too much. If you can keep habitats well, if the drinking waters and everything are available, no issue. Animals will find it out. What you need to manage is the staff. It's the frontline staff, whether they are working, in the field or not. So any management, wildlife management is nothing but man management. Now, our actions, our reactions, our inactions led to various environmental degradations. And that is why 2020 to 2030, UN has declared this particular decade as the decade of eco-restoration. So there are opportunities to restore the degraded lands. And even the corporate sectors can play an important role, including like oil and coals. They have often been blamed as like a polluting industries. But there are coal fields which are left barren. There are opportunities to probably recreate a little bit. So restoration is important, and because the UN has announced this decade as a decade of restorations, means yes, there's something wrong in our ecosystems. The ecosystems that provide us the ingredients to live is definitely in some bad stage. So we all need to focus on that if we really want to live. And it is, I think it is possible. We need to keep our mindset positive. We have to keep our actions, attitude positive. And that is where I feel the whole education systems needs to play an important role, bringing the right positive attitude among these human beings so that they can think both sides of the coin. You know, development, sustainable development is possible if the developmental planners also see the other side of that. At the same time, as an environmentalist, I know that because of development, we are also going to lose some of the forest or prime areas. So we also need to adjust. It cannot be a rigid kind of things if we want to develop. But what is important that our developmental planning should be planned in a way that is least damaging to the environment. It is not essential every time the road has to go straight. If road can a little bit bifurcate and save some pristine wildlife, let us think of it. It may cost more, but maybe if we count the ecological, cost that they contribute to us, helping the building human well-being or help us survive, probably the cost of investing in road, little bit of more like 1 or 2 kilometers may be useful. So that is where I think we need to see. We need not block our mindset in one side. We need to look at both sides, and then I think it is very possible. One thing before I conclude, there are generally beliefs in our minds. Sometimes it comes that probably our country is not doing good. It's not that. I have visited many of the countries, especially for wildlife conservation, rhino conservation. And after visiting those countries, I have realized I have increased my respect to my nation. Because despite 1/6 of the world population, India is still giving the resources needed for conservation. In our national park, like Kaziranga National Park, our government is putting over 1,200 frontline staff to protect the sanctity of the rhinos, the sanctity of the national park, and also to protect the ecosystem services. In many countries I have seen in the similar areas, they have only 40 or 50 frontline staff. Okay, so sometimes we also need to acknowledge that the government is putting the effort, despite having 1.2 billion people. The people's pressure is much. So sometimes we also need to realize the other side of that coin. So in that way, we are quite flexible, trying to understand and also trying to support, complement, and at the same time build the relations among the government so that whenever we need some priority actions to be initiated for the field of conservation and wildlife, we can at least knock the door of the government and negotiate and do something positive. So thank you very much for inviting me. I have another session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We are really privileged to have you here at IIM Shillong. We are also honored to have with us Shri Dasho who would be joining us online. Shri Dasho is the president of the Center for Bhutan Studies and Gross National Happiness Research. He is also an active scholar, writer, painter, and historian. He is the prime mover behind the global G&H movement. His important books include Leadership of the Wise Kings of Bhutan, The Hero with 1,000 Eyes, Bhutan, the Unremembered Nation, and a short guide to Gross National Happiness Index.
Hello. Can I start?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Please.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
we can hear you.
Okay, let me begin then. Shall I?
Please.
Yes, sir. Please, sir. Please, sir. Continue.
Distinguished participants and audience, and I have been asked by Professor Sanjay, my friend, to speak specifically on GNH, sustainability, and Buddhism, which is a surprising combination, you might say, but which is not so exciting because you are all very familiar with sustainability as well as Buddhism. But let me try. Now, however, because of time stress, I can only sort of skim instead of talk in great detail. And let me choose to talk more on Buddhism and sustainability today, because I already gave a talk on GNH to an earlier SusCon. I will refer also to happiness in general, not in particular to GNH. So I will focus really on the relationship between sustainability and Buddhism today, while I refer to happiness in general, not to GNH, because GNH is a bit technical too. So to begin my talk, an important hypothesis of Buddhism is that our nature is very susceptible to 5 toxins or 5 afflictions, which are desire, anger, delusion, pride, and envy. And they continuously undermine our mindfulness and subject us negatively with disturbing emotions if we are not very careful. Now, on the other hand, in economics too, as you all know, the basic assumption is that man is self-interested, maximizing his or her preferences or subjective utilities. Both views seem similar at this gross level. And there are, however, very vast differences between the two beyond this simplistic point. The view of the world seen through the 5 toxins or 5 afflictions postulated in Buddhism will be fairly exploitative. Marketing, which can induce a great deal of unnecessary consumptions, is based on really exploiting also subliminal desires and status upmanship. Marketing as a tool began in the United States. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Marketing began in the United States during President Hoover's presidency. It was aimed, of course, to support mass production and sale of consumer goods. Marketing and advertising tries to create a belief that those marketed goods and services will give you untold subjective well-being or utility in economics. It is true only to some extent, but most of us are quite willing to go along with this half-truth. Samsara, to use a Hindi word, is made invisible by marketing and market. GDP is primarily a performance measure of the market, and it excludes the non-market sphere. Considering that GDP is increasing, consumption per capita is increasing, real income is increasing, we take it for granted that well-being and happiness too is increasing. Is this unambiguously so? You might ask yourself. By extension of such logic, expansion of luxury goods, luxury consumptions, which accounts a great deal of value chain increase, is considered source of happiness and status upmanship. There are studies suggesting that the value creation in gross value chain occurs primarily at the level of marketing and distribution as part of returns to intangible assets. Expansion of luxury and doubtful goods and services may also account for a significant part or significant increase in GDP or income. But problem is that it may cost us a significant degree of environmental sustainability in the process. After all, you know that extraction, production, consumption, pollution, and waste are part of the same chain. The market forces, marketing and maximization of GDP are supposed to be aligned. Questions arise whether they are equally aligned with happiness and sustainability and with mindfulness. But we should note that there are a huge number of goods and services produced and consumed that are not part of market forces, i.e. in the non-market sector, loosely interpreted. How much of any good and services are produced in the market and non-market sectors depends really on the political economy of the country. Buddhism tells us that development is about the development of a person with respect to, at first, the threefold trainings of ethics, meditation, and wisdom. Note that wisdom is defined less conventionally here as understanding that nothing exists inherently, which is expressed also as no self or emptiness. A developed person would be less mentally affected, other things remaining the same, as economists would say, and proportionately be happier and experience less suffering. Thus, in Buddhism, development is about qualitative improvement of a person that makes him or her orient towards mindfulness and also orient towards happiness as a byproduct or automatic result. Note that ethics in Buddhism is sharply based on whether you cause suffering to yourself or others, including, of course, sentient beings. Causes can spring from many sources, such as psychological, physical, communal, cultural, governmental, environmental, economic, health, and educational. Causes of suffering or pain or unhappiness can be both structural and specific. Now, transforming the 5 stupefying toxins or poisons into modes of discriminating awareness is the core of an attempt, of a serious Buddhist attempt, especially in Vajrayana Buddhism. Meditation accompanied by subtle body and breath movements are central to this. You know very well that meditation releases you from stress and helps you think perhaps more clearly and better, as indicated by its 3 effects, which are joy, clarity, and radiance. These are well-known results. But the true eventual aim of meditation is to expose the lack of self. If a person were to lack his or herself, what does that amount to in realization? We are then nothing. We are nowhere at the level of super awareness. The Buddha often responded in a stunning way when Ananda asked Buddha one day why the Lord is never disturbed by the passing of his relatives or his kins, he replied that they never existed. But this answer was that particular point of view of profound realization, not conventional truth. For us, ordinary beings, it may even be frightening to contemplate such a scenario where there is no self from an ordinary or a conventional point of view, given our attachment to our life, our goals, our self-identities, and our beings and our belongings. Whenever such a threatening dissolution arises, what do? We try to become even more real. And how do we do that? We do that with more things that confirm our individuality through reinforcing identities, our successes, and our connections, it has been argued. Now, the discovery of no self is a moment of discovery of something of our essence, which is the untarnished consciousness, which is said to be bright, which is said to be luminous. But that is a different topic. I don't want to go into that. And also because I have not tasted the fruit myself completely. At such moment of realization of or discovery of no self, if we experience this, perhaps we can grasp the state of interbeing where we can perfectly relate to each other with no subjective separation between any sentient beings. That is also perhaps what is meant by Mahayana Buddhism's emphasis on equality, wisdom of equality, and great equanimity. This is where I can say sustainability is equally about justice and equally about equity. From a longer term perspective, as you know, only what is just and what is equitable could be pursued. And at a more fundamental level, sustained happiness will require very broadly sustained environmental quality and secondly, sustained social quality. It should be noted that the stock of natural capital is not part of GDP because GDP is a flow measure. And the market prices underestimate the value of almost all environmental goods, even where there are prices attached to them. Furthermore, when cost-benefit analysis, which all of you will be studying as IIM students, is carried out on proposed projects where environmental aspects are involved, three problems arise when you apply cost-benefit analysis. First, discount rates used are higher than desirable. Second, the project durations are arbitrarily very short, often between 15 to 30 years, maximum of 30 years. And thirdly, the values which cannot or are not easy to be monetized or also arbitrarily monetized. But the impact on the project, impact of the project on the environment actually lasts sometimes over centuries. Yet the quality of life is on quality of nature and the quality of relationship, social relationship around us. This is clear from the characterization of paragons such as heavens and paradises, which you must come across in Hinduism, Christianity, or Islam. Expressed within the limitations of human language and human perceptions, in heavens, nature, flora, and fauna are abundantly beautiful and prolific. Brilliant line shines, unaffected by pollutions. Calming sounds permeate the atmosphere without the background drones of electrical energy and traffic noise which we suffer and which give us great deal of stress. In terms of social quality, every consciousness feels unconditional loving kindness and compassion in paradise and heaven. On earth, we aim for the same kind of environmental and social qualities, though we achieve, of course, far less. Market might try to replace them with transaction altogether. What I meant is environmental services and social relationship may be replaced by the market. And if it does so, it will make them dependent on your purchasing power. We must consciously protect environment, community, and our time for happiness. Nothing can be sustained, nothing can be sustainable and stable if these three, happiness, environment, and social qualities, become scarce for the ordinary human beings, indeed all social beings. I now wish to conclude with my last minute ode to the fourth king of Bhutan for his seminal idea on GNH, and continued by the fifth king of Bhutan. GNH is a very humble initiative in this regard. From the point of view of stabilizing and measuring what we value, what we treasure, the matrix of GNH evaluates through national service surveys numerous conditions using structured questions. The data, mostly self-rating on Likert scales, are converted into indicators using a method of aggregation known as the Alkire-Foster methodology. The findings and updated indicators are used in several national decision-making. GNH indices have varying uses for the nation and the government as weights in annual local government budget allocations, as criteria for policy screenings whenever new policies are proposed, as benchmark for the 5-year socio-economic plans targeting, and as assessments for some of the state enterprises, and as discourses for balancing proposals or pledges by political parties. In this and many other ways, GNH elevates happiness as a central organizing concept. Unlike Buddhism, GNH is secular and statistical. It is less philosophical and more practical, reaching out to individuals, communities, local governments, businesses, and the government. It includes both the market and the non-market. It attempts to bridge measurement, policy, and vision in the hope that sustainability and happiness will be better served by following GNH. I thank you for inviting me to address SusCon for the second time, and I wish you great success. Thank you very much, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you, sir. Your words were very informative, and we are very grateful that you graced the event. So, next, we are extremely delighted and honored to have our chief guest, Padma Bhushan Dr. Mrityunjay Athreya. Dr. Mrityunjay Athreya has been a founder and a pioneer of the Indian management profession. After work experience and the gold medals in the cost accountancy, he got a doctorate from Harvard Business School, USA in 1967. He has been a professor at IIM Calcutta, London Business School, and the Scottish Business School.
You can move.
The last 5 decades has been taking the management to all the sectors and the corners of India. Recognized his contribution with the Padma Bhushan in 2014. Dr. Athreya has been professionally honored as the Bhishma Pitamba, Grand Guru of the Indian Acharya. He is also respected as an icon of the Indian costing profession. Dr. Athreya has been an advocate of the Dharma in all the walks of life. The revered Shri Shankaracharyas have conferred on him the title of Dharma Pracharak. Dr. Athreya is now a national evangelist on the 4 major challenges before India in this 21st century, which includes the climate healing, coping with China, reduction of the inequality, and sustaining the Dharma. We would request, sir, to please address all of us. Sir, please. He will be joining us online.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. Let me say that I'm delighted to be here. The word is Ananda, Paramananda. For various reasons, this is a very important topic. It's a global conference, and I can see that the hall is full, attended by... Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I'd like to first of all compliment the IIM Shillong director and the team, the 2 co-chairs on the design of this excellent conference. I enjoyed the valuable comments of all my previous speakers. And my talk is directed particularly at the students and the managers and the youth in India and globally, as the publication will come out and more people will read about this. Yeah, okay, I'm just adjusting the volume. Volume is clear, you're able to hear it?
Sure. Yes,
okay.
sir.
The comments of Uraji is particularly relevant to us, very interesting. The Dalai Lama has said that Buddhism is a daughter of Hinduism. It has now grown up and we are sisters. There are many shared concepts. For example, the Panchakleshas that were mentioned in Buddhism. I hope some of you have read the Gita. If there is one book that every Hindu should read, it is the Bhagavad Gita. I would strongly urge each student to buy a copy for herself or himself and make this your manual of life. The Gita talks about the Shadripu, the 6 enemies, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. And Bhagavan Krishna finally, out of these 6 selects 2, the 2 greatest enemies are Kama and Krodha. Anger is something that you have to personally conquer by introspection, meditation, self-analysis. Kama is not just sexual, it is desire for things, for consumption. Kama is one of the main reasons for the global climate crisis. So unless each individual worldwide reflects, and this is happening, and control their Kama, that is, go for what is, as Gandhiji said, what we need, not all that we want. And there are talk now about minimalist lifestyle, reducing possessions, recycling waste, and so on. So meditation is a daily habit that is worth having, and particularly not just on the Brahman, the universal cosmic reality, but on self and the day's work and the day's mistakes, self-criticism, and how, in particular in our case, how can I change my behavior and improve it with respect to the environment? I'd like to say a few words briefly about the title, Our Shared Global Sustainability Dharma. And let's go in the reverse order. The most important word I have been maintaining in any language in the world is dharma. And it has parallels, ethics, values, justice, many words to translate dharma. Dharayati iti dharma. Dharma upholds the world. Dharmo rakshati rakshitah. If we neglect our sustainability dharma, we are having the climate crisis, we are heading towards a climate catastrophe, and we are gathered here to discuss how we can escape from that catastrophe, stop even at the 11th hour, 55 minutes to the clock, and trace our steps back. Dharma has many facets. In particular, in this conference, in this talk, we are focused on sustainability dharma. What are the key elements of the sustainability of the individual, the various stakeholders, to maintain sustainability, to recover sustainability, And it is not a national responsibility of any one country. If some countries don't follow this dharma, that climate change will affect the rest of the world. So it is a global dharma, and it has to be shared. No one country alone, however rich, however technologically advanced, can help the world escape this sustainability crisis and danger that's coming upon us. And it is our collective shared dharma. In that sense, this address is for the 7 billion plus human beings eventually. You are the pratinidhi, representatives of humanity listening to this today. I've already been introduced. Again, I'd like to commend IIM Shillong for this great initiative, maintaining it for 9 years now, and I hope they continue. I have just 4 slides. I'm taking the 3 themes of the conference: collaboration, compassion, co-creation, in the same order, and outlining some of the kshetras, theaters, where collaboration is required. I am taking a global perspective. Of course, there are national level, state level, regional level, industry level areas for collaboration. That's a very huge area. But I'm looking at the world as a whole. We have one Earth, Mother Earth, and how we together take collaborative action to protect her. The second is that compassion must be directed to the right targets. Who are the patras? Patratvat bhiksham dehi. When you donate or give dharma, dana, look for the right recipient to take it. So who are the most deserving? Compassion is required everywhere in the world. But if we do an ABC analysis, who are the most vulnerable targets who are in need of our compassion immediately? And the third, co-creation, is basically our action, karma, positive karma, nishkama karma, endless, active, vigorous karma, kushal karma, yoga karma is a kaushalam. And finally, I would like to end with an action plan. Those of you who have listened to me before know that every talk of mine in the last 50 years, the last slide is always about action, because it is not enough to understand concepts, intellectualize and discuss. We must eventually put it in action. So my particular appeal to the students of IIM Shillong is that they take this presentation to their heart and make it part of their life mission to be lifetime activists, evangelists for sustainability, because sustainability, even if we solve the current problems, it'll keep rearing its head because of the market profit surge, as well as the individual karma and endless consumption. So let us take the theaters of collaboration. I'm again at a global level. I think the single biggest issue that keep coming up in the last few years will come up again in COP27 in Egypt on 6th November, 3 days from today. Our finance minister, Sitaraman, has already spoken about in the G20 meeting of finance ministers. Climate compensatory funding with rich countries, 2 to 3 centuries of development, all the pollution that they have created, all the lifestyle that they have enjoyed, and there has to be some historic responsibility for all that pollution. And they must now provide the funding. This is not coming. $100 billion were mentioned. That is small. Much more is needed. And so my appeal is to EU, US, China, and other richer countries, Japan, to really introspect and do their best in terms of compensatory funding. The second requirement globally is that green technologies, we must not be held hostage. They should not exploit it for 5 years or 10 years and then give it to us, because the climate problem is so serious. So the quick sharing of the new green technologies with the developing world to help them meet their targets, like India's net zero 2070, our targets up to 2030, the Panchamrit that the Prime Minister has talked about. So the technology should not be a bone of contention, exploitation, as pharma R&D, as an example, very high prices for medicines. And the developing countries will also need large investments, like in solar energy, wind energy, other alternatives that are coming up, hydrogen, green energy. So investments will be required, and rich countries must come with investments at a moderate rate of return, not looking to maximize the rate of return, not applying the traditional economic project selection criteria. And this is the requirement. Whether they will do it or not, it's a struggle. Even if they don't do it very well, in our own interest, of course, we must protect India's climate vulnerability.
It's not getting changed now. That's it.
No,
We are changing, but it is not coming.
on the screen.
Yes.
Now it's visible, sir.
Are you seeing it on the screen, my PowerPoints?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, let me come to the second point about compassion. Who are the targets? I think you may remember that in various conferences, the island states, because of the seawater rising, they are sinking. Once they held a dramatic conference underwater, and these states must be saved, and that's one of the top priorities. Then we should look at those populations which are vulnerable, most vulnerable to climate, that coastal, extreme floods, hills, droughts, quakes, fires. And of course, more and more are becoming vulnerable. There are fire in California, fire in France.
Pagi kerja dari rumah, petang nanti pukul 3 saya pergi office.
Then we should look at the poorest of the poor, not within a country, not within a continent like Asia or Africa, the global poorest of the poor. And our first climate aid should go to those people. I think we should remember that famous song by John Lennon, Imagine No Country, that there are no borders, just one humanity. I think we have to exercise that kind of creative leap and overcome these nationalistic, local, selfish interests and act as if we are all together in one country. And we have to, although a world government, UN Security Council reform is proving difficult, the UN and commissions are working at it, we can at least mentally simulate a world government. And that government should, by discussion, agree. Like in the area of COVID, India has made a significant contribution of the vaccine, not on a profit basis, but in terms of saving the populations of many poorer countries. And similar efforts should be made in climate technology, climate products, and other solutions. Let me come to my third point. The actions to be taken for co-creation. And yes, I think the text mentions this. All the stakeholders together, I put together in capital letters. And in business, we know in the audience there are senior managers who are in the GMP at Shillong. They know that it is customer, investor, worker, public, government, shareholders, varieties of stakeholders, the distribution partners, vendor partners, all the stakeholders must be together. Similarly, in NGOs, there are the activists, there is the NGO management, there are donors, there are various kinds of regulatory agencies, all together, wherever they are, must work on this co-creation. If the customer is careless in dealing with packaging and in recycling the wastage, then there is a problem. If companies don't do their homework to become a green business as early as they can, in fact, some major multinational corporations have declared their net zero date as 2050, 2040, and trying to advance it. We should also have continuous cycles of 3 steps. Sustainability research, very often research is good. It remains unimplemented. Research must be converted into innovation. The Prime Minister recently used the word Anusandhan. And innovation converts research into an actionable, consumable, meaningful product or service. And execution soon after that. Not the careless execution, but with respect to environmental impacts. And this cycle will go on because no one set of solutions will solve the sustainability problem. And in the last 10 years, we have gone through so many renewable energy items. It began with wind power, solar power. Now we are talking about hydrogen. So there are newer kind of solutions that will be coming out. And all big corporations, private philanthropists, foundations need to massively support climate NGOs globally and locally. We have in the past given money for health, education. These are important. But I think now climate has become a survival issue, an existential threat. So there should be massive support. Please, those of you top managers who are attending, such as your top management, CSR fund allocation and slant it more and more towards climate-related solutions, globally as well as locally. And together, our karma, our actions, have to prevent pralayam. We are not far from the deluge. It's taking place in parts of the country. The floods in Kerala, Chennai, the frequent storms in Orissa, Bengal, Assam coast, the melting of the glaciers in the Himalayas. Ganga water level may rise for some time and then may become dry thereafter. So we are halfway towards pralayam, and we need to now draw back from it. We have not done in an anticipated way, but at least in the crisis, we should pull back. Let me come to my last slide of the action plan. All countries must keep raising every year the targets in the conference of parties, the one that's coming up in Egypt. Then every year there will be one such conference. We may at some point need them every 6 months. Raise and exceed the raised target. Each country should keep advancing its net zero target. I think it is at the moment very lax, controlled by current problems and difficulties. EU should do it much faster than 2050. China should bring it before 2060. India should advance it from 2070. I think in the next 5 to 10 years, crucial, if we take energetic action based on collaboration, compassion, and co-creation, we may be able to bring it forward. Because we are in danger of exceeding 2 degrees temperature increase. 1.5 would have been safer. So we should certainly go back to 2 and if possible even approach 1.5. Particularly for India, reference was made to the Amrit Mahotsav that we are celebrating, 750th year. The next 25 years has been given a beautiful name, Amrit Kaal. 2047, our centenary of independence. This period should be used very well, and so we need in India a sustainability roadmap for this period, updated every year, very frequently, particular segments updated even more frequently to achieve this goal of a sustainable economy, society, environment. This campaign that we are talking about, the 9th conference and more conferences, if you look at the whole of human history, invasions, wars, religious renaissance, gurus, saints, I think this climate campaign that we are planning is the most critical human action in entire history. We have brought the problem on ourselves, and we have to solve that problem. And this if we fail in this campaign, the humanity will suffer, and the environment will become less habitable. That is why some people are talking about space travel, colonization. That may be exciting, but it cannot accommodate 7 billion people. It's a council of despair. We should not give up. We must do Dharma Yudh on this campaign of sustainability. And in addition to all our karma, we also need divine grace, Bhagavad Sankalpam, prarthanas, prayers, and considering my age, I'm running 82. Okay. So that's what I wanted to say. I wish there were time for some question and discussion. That would be a normal session. So thank you very much. I hope it's useful. Professor Sanjay Mukherjee, I won't mind if you distributed this PowerPoint to all the students and participants, whoever wants to see it. It may remind them of the points that I have made. And I end with my Ashirwads. My time will be up soon, and the future, our children and grandchildren, let them inherit and develop, maintain a habitable earth. Thank you.
For your insightful words. We are very fortunate that you graced the occasion with your presence. Now, I would request our session chairperson to come to the dais and felicitate our dignitaries.
Lagi satu tangga.
I would again request Professor Sanjay Mukherjee to honor our chief guest, Padma Bhushan, Dr. Mrityunjay Athreya, with the moment.
Saya pegang.
It's an honor for in the entire community of IIM Shillong to have you with us as a chief guest. The VP of Indian HR and Global HR, Padma Bhushan, Dr. Mrityunjay Athreya. Again, you're speaking to us, inspiring us, blessing us. Thank you, sir.
I would request Professor Sanjeev Kapoti sir to honor Shri Dasho President of the Center for Bhutan Studies and Gross National Happiness Research, Thimphu, Bhutan, with the memento.
Thank you very much, sir. It's the second time that we've heard you in our conference, and as a knowledge partner, it was a privilege to host you. We look forward to seeing you in person in Shillong. Thank you very much for your words of wisdom.
Now, we would request our conference chairpersons to honor our esteemed guest, Dr. Vibha Kumar Talukdar, Indian conservation biologist and founder and CEO of IIM, with the memento.
Thank you, all the dignitaries. Now I would request Professor Priya Ratnam to give the vote of thanks. Ma'am, please.
Good morning, everyone. I take this opportunity to extend the vote of thanks. I express sincere gratitude to our chief guest, Padma Bhushan, Dr. Mrityunjay Athreya, for his words of wisdom, for his inspiration and his blessings. I thank our guest of honor, Shri Dasho, for his valuable partnership and his insights on sustainability. I also thank our special guest, Dr. Vibha Kumar Talukdar, who has taken the time to come here, visit us, and share his thoughts with us. I thank our director, Professor T.P. Goyal, for his constant support and guidance. I thank the chairpersons of SusCon, Professor Sanjay and Professor Sanjeev, for their leadership and setting the direction to the conference. I thank all our faculty colleagues for their support. I thank all the research scholars for the efforts that they have put in, all the students and participants. And finally, I thank all our support staff at admin, IT, PR and housekeeping for their support and for making this event, getting this event started. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, ma'am. With this, we come to an end of the inauguration ceremony. We hope you had an engaging and fruitful experience during the conference. To evoke feelings of patriotism and remind us all of the nation's glory and beauty, I would request you all to stand up in respect for our national anthem.
Ganga, Vindhya Himachal Yamuna Ganga, Uchala Jalakitaranga. Tava Shubha Name Jare, Tava Shubha Shamani, Gahe Tava Jagatha. Bharat Bhavya Vithacha, Jaya He, Jaya He, Jaya He, Jaya 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 He.
Thank you so much, everyone. We will be proceeding for a short tea break and will be gathering again here by 11:55 a.m. for the technical session. Thank you.
Next room.
Just next room. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. And we will be proceeding for a short tea break just next to the audit. And we will be gathering again here by 11:55 a.m. for the technical session. Thank you.